Ryan Williams, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Adrian Broner, who has been calling out Marcos Maidana and Manny Pacquiao for quite some time now, he just called him out again. He basically did a recent interview, and this is what he pretty much said. Quote, "I want Manny Pacquiao next. I'll kick his ass. I'll make the fight look easy. I'm 172 pounds. I want Chino. I want Marcos Maidana." End quote. Now, before I talk about Broner possibly fighting Manny Pacquiao in the future, let's just talk about Marcos Maidana right now. Let me ask you guys a question. Who would you say is the real fighter, the toughest fighter, has the most heart between Adrian Broner and Marcos Maidana? If I ask you guys that question, who would you guys pick? Now, with the majority of boxing fans being casual fans and extremely biased decaf fans, the majority of you guys will say, oh, that's Maidana hands down, right? Well, if you would say that, I would ask you to reevaluate your assessment, and I'll tell you why. When Adrian Broner was undefeated for quite some time, he was a star, okay? He was the A side. Usually when you are the A side, you have a lot more options when it comes to your opponents, okay? Now with Adrian Broner, he was fighting in 3 different divisions, 135, 140, 147. Adrian Broner, he could have took a fight at 135. He could have took a fight at 140. He didn't have to fight Marcos Maidana. He didn't have to give Marcos Maidana a shot at his title. That was an optional title defense, okay? So obviously Adrian Broner, he's supposed to beat Marcos Maidana, but he clearly loses in the fight. He gets knocked down twice, and he gets bested, okay? Now, Adrian Broner, he could have easily said, I don't want to ever fight this guy again because he understands the risk is too high. If Adrian Broner goes in there and loses again to Marcos Maidana, his career is damn near over with. He understands this. So the question is, why would Adrian Broner still want to take that risk? If you look at the history of the sport, you'll notice the majority of fighters that were in the same predicament that Adrian Broner was in when he lost to Marcos Maidana, like, for example, Oscar De La Hoya when he lost to Shane Mosley, Julio Cesar Chavez when he lost to Pernell Whitaker, Abner Mares when he got knocked out by Johnny Gonzalez. Those fighters lost, and they did not want a rematch. Matter of fact, in Oscar De La Hoya's situation, Shane Mosley wanted the rematch more than Oscar wanted the rematch. Oscar didn't take the rematch against Shane Mosley until Oscar seen Shane Mosley lose to Vernon Forrest twice. That's when Oscar decided to take the rematch. Abner Mares, he wasn't in too much of a hurry to take a rematch with Johnny Gonzalez. Chavez completely rejected a rematch with Pernell Whitaker, okay? But you have fighters like Adrian Broner, who has everything to lose and everything to gain. It's a serious gamble that he's willing to take. He wants to fight against Marcos Maidana. Who doesn't want the fight? Maidana doesn't want the fight, right? And to add insult to injury when it comes to the fans at least, Adrian Broner, once again, he gave Marcos Maidana a shot at his title, right? Maidana wins the title. The least you could do is say, you know what, Broner, you gave me a shot when you didn't have to, so let me give you a rematch. Is Marcos Maidana doing that? No, he's not doing that, right? Because Marcos Maidana, he does not want to lose that feeling of being the victor, beating Adrian Broner. Marcos Maidana understands the risk of possibly losing in the rematch. You also have to remember, guys, Adrian Broner showed tremendous heart in that fight with Marcos Maidana. The way Broner got knocked down early on in that fight, you would have pretty much been sure he wouldn't have made it to 12 rounds. Well, not only did Broner make it to 12 rounds, but Broner was backing up Marcos Maidana at times in that fight. And he even hurt Marcos Maidana in the 12th round. And Marcos Maidana gave Broner a lot of respect. He talked about how difficult the fight was. He talked about Broner's power after the fight was over. Okay? He didn't make it seem like he just blew this guy out the water. So this is the reason why Maidana, he doesn't want a rematch with Adrian Broner. And you know what's ridiculous is when you see writers or whoever saying that, oh, Adrian Broner, he's just upset that he lost the first fight. It's still bothering him and so on and so forth. Isn't it supposed to bother him? I mean, if you're a real champion, isn't it supposed to bother you that a guy just beat you and you can't sleep until you get that revenge? Isn't that how a real champion thinks? Because this is how Broner thinks. This is not how Marcos Maidana thinks. Once again, man, a real fighter would give Adrian Broner a rematch just based off the fact that Adrian Broner gave you an opportunity to fight for his title when he didn't have to. Maidana wasn't the mandatory. He didn't have to take that fight. He could have took a whole bunch of other fights that would have been a lot more safer. Floyd Mayweather didn't even lose to Castillo, and he gave him a rematch, right? I mean, to this day, you have fans saying that Floyd Mayweather lost to Castillo. So we know that that was one of Floyd Mayweather's toughest fights by these fans' own admission. So why would Floyd Mayweather take a chance of losing to a guy who was his toughest foe at that time? Because these are real tough fighters. You can hate Floyd Mayweather all you want. You can hate Adrian Broner all you want. But we know the truth. The fighters that these decafs are calling cowards and chickens, these are the ones that are doing things that the tough guys are supposed to be doing. Meanwhile, the quote-unquote tough guy, Marcos Maidana, doesn't want to take a chance of losing to Adrian Broner in a rematch. He goes even further. Now he gets called out by Keith Thurman 3 times. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Keith Thurman calls out Marcos Maidana, and Maidana turns down the fight for an unprecedented 3rd time. Understand something, guys. Keith Thurman is ranked higher in every single major organization than Maidana is, right? He's ranked higher than Maidana. Why would Maidana not want to take the fight? It's going to be the biggest fight that he's had next to the Floyd Mayweather fight, right? But he doesn't want to take a fight like that because Maidana knows that he's going in the ring with another power puncher. Maidana wants to be the only power puncher. He wants to have the advantage. Keep in mind, the guy that these decafs call the coward and the chicken, Floyd Mayweather, every time he steps in the ring, he's in there with a knockout artist, with a power puncher, right? Marcos Maidana was damn near 20 pounds bigger than Floyd. Canelo Alvarez, 15, 20 pounds bigger than Floyd. How come Maidana, if Floyd can get in the ring with a knockout artist with power who punches harder than he does, how come Maidana can't do it? But Adrian Broner is willing to do it. Once again, Adrian Broner has a lot more to lose in a rematch with Maidana than Maidana does. Because Maidana, he just came off of 2 losses in a row. I mean, how is it possible, guys, that fighters like Floyd Mayweather, he could be called a chicken, a coward, he could be labeled as being afraid to give fighters rematches. Floyd doesn't give rematches and so on and so forth. That's the reason why I say he's a coward. Meanwhile, Marcos Maidana, he won't give a rematch to Adrian Broner. And these same fans, they're sitting here saying, oh, he shouldn't have to give Broner a rematch. Shouldn't have to give him a rematch. What kind of double standard is that? Right? What kind of double standard is that? You guys claim you like to see blood and guts. You like to see action-packed fights, right? Adrian Broner got knocked down twice, Face was all bloodied up and swollen. He gets back up. He fights through all of that. Like I said, even comes back and hurts Marcos Maidana in the final round. As if that wasn't enough, Adrian Broner saying, I want revenge. I want to get revenge. I want to avenge my loss. But these hypocritical ass fans and writers will sit here and say, nah, we don't want you to get your revenge. We don't want you to fight a second time. Because these fans, or at least the extreme bias ones, they are happy that Maidana has this win over Broner. And they don't want to risk Adrian Broner possibly beating Maidana in a rematch, which is exactly where Maidana is coming from. He doesn't want to risk that. He doesn't want to take that chance, which is the reason why I don't consider Marcos Maidana as this quote-unquote tough guy. Adrian Broner is the real tough guy right now. Okay? I mean, you guys try to make some sense of this. Matter of fact, if Adrian Broner, or let me say, if Marcos Maidana was in Broner's shoes right now, where he's still considered a star, he still has tons of options out there of different opponents that he could face. And once again, he's in Broner's exact shoes. Marcos Maidana wouldn't want a rematch with Adrian Broner. Something else that needs to be noted, guys. Al Haymon is the one that wanted to put together these fights, right? Al Haymon is willing to put Broner versus Maidana to rematch together. Al Haymon is the one that wanted to put Maidana against Keith Thurman. It was Marcos Maidana who didn't want this fight. Okay? I mean, that's just something for you guys to think about. Once again, these are the facts. Forget the speculation and the emotional talk. I mean, it's really ridiculous when you think about it. These fighters that are on the coincidental list, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. These fighters, they call out the best fighters in the world and they get slammed for it. People are hating on them for calling out the best fighters. Now, I already know for some of you boxing fans, you're going to give Marcos Maidana all the excuses in the world. You're going to say, well, maybe he doesn't want to fight him because there's more money out there. There's more money for him to fight someone like Amir Khan and so on and so forth. Understand this, guys. First of all, like I said earlier on in this video, Keith Thurman is ranked higher than Maidana is in every single organization, from the WBC to the WBO, the IBF, WBA, etc., etc., etc. Number one. All right? Number two, all of these fighters are Al Haymon fighters. I talked to Sam Watson. He told me that Maidana is not going to turn this fight down because he's going to basically be offered so much money. That's what Sam Watson told me. All right? Now, on top of that, I want you guys to understand this as well. If Maidana is a real fighter, why doesn't he fight them both? He says he doesn't want to fight Keith Thurman, but he'll fight Amir Khan. If you have that much confidence in yourself that you're this quote-unquote tough guy, why don't you fight them both? Why don't you say, okay, I'll fight Keith Thurman next, and then after that, I want Amir Khan. Now, you know what's so funny? Once again, we keep talking about these tough guys. Keith Thurman is another tough guy that doesn't get the credit that fighters like Maidana gets. Matter of fact, I remember we interviewed Keith Thurman, and we asked him, what would be a tougher fight, Maidana or Amir Khan? Keith Thurman, he said, that's an interesting question because, see, if I fight Amir Khan, I might not be able to get one time, meaning he probably wouldn't be able to get the knockout because, of Khan's foot speed and he's elusive, he's a boxer, etc., etc. He said, we might even get outboxed in that fight. He said, but if I fight Marcos Maidana, I can get one time. His style is more tailor-made for me. But the difference between what Keith Thurman said and what Marcos Maidana said is even though Keith said I may get outboxed by Khan, he still said I'm willing to fight them both. He still said I'm willing to fight them both. Marcos Maidana, on the other hand, he's cherry picking. He's saying I only want to fight Amir Khan. Now just think about this for a second, guys. I mean, I know you guys know this already. Answer this question. Who is the safest opponent for Marcos Maidana? Who's the safest opponent? It would be Amir Khan, right? We know that Amir Khan doesn't have the best chin. We know that Amir Khan is really going in the ring to outbox you. He's not really going in there. I mean, of course, he wants to knock out, but he's not 100% focused on knocking you out. But we know that Keith Thurman is a knockout artist. And we know, if you know anything about boxing, you know, just like Keith Thurman said, Maidana's style would be more tailor-made for Keith Thurman. And guess who else understands that? Maidana understands that. Okay? That's pretty much all I got, guys. I'm on to the next one.